Where do I start? Because I went to training camp for the Dolphins, right? And the big storyline in the offseason was the secondary, how depleted it is, how hurt they are, and like that was the main thing. Then we come here, week one, and the offense kind of looks a mess as well. We see Tyreek really frustrated. Tua is giving the ball away, 3 turnovers there in the first 4 drives. It's kind of crazy. And head coach Mike McDaniel obviously knows what is going on. Here's what he had to say about that week one performance against the Colts.
I'm not trying to, paint a glossy. I'll call it what it is. It was, embarrassing. Not anything that paying fans sign up for.
All right. He's pretty straightforward. It's embarrassing. And it was, right? Mike McDaniel will not last the entire season there with the Dolphins. Is that an overreaction, or is that something we should seriously be considering?
Well, I think based off all the news reports today and after that performance, most people would say this is a reality.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go the other way and say this is an overreaction. And the reason why I say that is because, and we talked about it on a couple of shows that we did earlier, the Dolphins have enough weapons on offense to correct this. And as long as Tua is playing within the framework of the offense with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Devin Achane, they have enough to win and score points. Now, the defense is going to have to stop someone, and we'll see if they can do that. But the other reason why I'm going to say this is an overreaction, Mike McDaniel was just rewarded with a contract extension not too long ago. And so to fire him or get rid of him in the middle of the season doesn't make sense at this point. I think what will end up happening is they'll let the season play out, see how this whole thing takes shape by the end of the season, and then make a determination from there. But I think calling for his job or whomever else's job at this point in the middle of the season, especially after week one, is a bit of an overreaction. Not a bit, a lot of an overreaction.
Yeah, and what about Tyreek Hill, though, right? Because in the offseason, there was a lot of conversation about his relationship with Tua. They kept saying, like, hey, we're building this thing. We're on good terms. It doesn't happen overnight, but we are, repatching our relationship. That's a summary of what was said. And he clearly looked frustrated several times, seemingly unhappy in Miami through several moments of his career there. Do you think Tyreek finishes the season in Miami, or do you think maybe he's a better fit somewhere else?
Well, I think the problem that you're going to have is who's going to take on this contract.
Yeah.
Who's going to take on the contract, and who's going to give the Dolphins the compensation that they will, require to move Tyreek. Here's what I want to say about Tyreek Hill and his displeasure in Miami. Tyreek Hill was also unhappy in Kansas City, and they were winning championships and had the makings of a team that became a dynasty, and he was unhappy there. He comes to Miami and he got what he coveted, which was a big extension, and at one point was the highest paid player at his position, and then now you're unhappy again. So it doesn't matter where you send him or whatever the case may be, Tyreek is just going to be unhappy because in both of those situations, he's the common denominator.
Okay.
So this is more of a Tyreek Hill problem than I think a Miami Dolphin problem.
Yeah, okay, that's a great perspective because, again, where the Chiefs were when he was there is a very, very different situation than where the Dolphins are right now. Want to talk about the Lions?
Oh boy, things in South Florida not feeling good. It's pouring rain down here in Miami, and it was also pouring rain for the Dolphins out in Indianapolis after they got worked by Daniel Jones and the Colts. After the game, Tyreek Hill saying, quote, "This was just a big kick in the balls for us." And I don't think you could put it any more plain there. I didn't even know we could say that on TV, but instead here we are. That kind of puts it in perspective. Guys, I felt like I was watching a horror movie watching the Dolphins and the Colts today, and it was just almost, Pete, surprising because you knew that this team maybe wasn't going to be as talented as what they look like on paper. But were you expecting the performance from the Dolphins today that we got?
Not this bad. No, absolutely not. Look, I know it's tough to open on the road in the NFL. It's always hard to do. But you got to go in there and compete. And they didn't even compete. It wasn't even close. Tua was terrible. I mean, the offensive line wasn't good. He kept getting hit. He turned the ball over. And defensively, they made Daniel Jones look like he was Peyton Manning in a Colts uniform. And it's a bad combination. And they have major problems. Let's be real. You have the discipline problems from a year ago. They tried to be tougher this year. New coach. Look, ultimately, it falls back on the head coach. Mike McDaniel went in there. He was loosey-goosey. He cared more about playing music at the practices and and somebody has a good practice, they can play their music. Whoa, you wear the orange jersey. Give me a break.
You hate that orange jersey.
I hate the whole idea of lack of discipline. Remember at the end of last season, he said, I find these guys, but they still were late. Well, that's on you. It's a reflection of you. So the problem is Mike McDaniel. And I think Mike McDaniel's seat just got really, really hot today.
I think it feels like the end is around the corner.
Like during the season?
Yes. If it
Calling
goes
for
this
his head.
bad, no. I mean, I'm not saying. I'm saying
later.
it
We're
would.
doing that
I'm not
later in
saying
the
they
show.
should do it. I'm saying it's starting to feel like it might be by necessity. How do you go into week 1 of the NFL season? It's supposed to be the easiest time to get everybody up, and you come out flat and look like that. That was an embarrassing performance for the Miami Dolphins, and for all the offseason criticism, there's something that feels broken. I think the relationship between Tua and Tyreek is broken. I think the relationship with Mike McDaniel and his players feels broken, where they do not respond to him as a coach that is very feared or respected in that locker room. I think they like him. That's not always a good thing if you're best friends and buddy-buddy with your coach, because they've walked all over him. They are not a very mentally or physically tough team right now, and if they don't turn this thing around soon, I think the writing is going to be on the wall.
Yeah, it was talked about all offseason, right? That this team needs to be tougher. This team needs to be more physical, more aggressive. And then you come into week 1 against a very physical, tough, and aggressive team in the Indianapolis Colts, and it didn't show like you improved in those areas. You look at this Miami defense, they gave up 156 rushing yards. And it's very hard to win games in the National Football League when your defense is giving up 156 yards rushing. But then on the offensive side of the ball, they only had 46 plays. They only had 46 plays. They only had 12 rushing attempts, which in Mike McDaniel's offense, the key component is being able to run the ball or have the threat of running the ball. And we know the play action pass is a big part of Tua's game and those in-breaking routes. And if you have no threat of running the ball, you virtually have no opportunity to win.
I will say their secondary was decimated during training camp. It looked like that's going to be exploited for a while until they can figure it out. And with Daniel Jones looking as comfortable as he did in the pocket, it doesn't look like they're going to have much pass rush to help out an inexperienced, not very good secondary. I'm just telling you, I don't like calling for guys to be fired. That's not what I'm saying. I just think it's getting to the point, and it's only one weekend. They can turn this around, and we could all forget about this one. But they have to do some serious soul searching this week of practice. But why didn't they do that all offseason? Like everyone's been challenging them all offseason. Why didn't they respond in their biggest opportunity, which is week 1?
Well, here's the other thing. We say their secondary has been decimated. When Cater Coho is the guy you're talking about as the big major loss in your secondary, you got problems in your secondary. He's a nice little player, but come on, let's be real. Artie Burns, Artie Burns was passed around the league by a bunch of people. So think about this. They had issues with this team before the injuries. The injuries only compounded it. And ultimately, if you want to look at 2 guys, Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel, there's your problems, and they all get. How many times has Chris Greer stayed around?
He's got like 9 lives, man.
It's unbelievable. And so I think if you want to look at the change needs to come. Change will come. If they don't make the playoffs, I think you're going to see a new general manager, a new head coach, and you might see a new quarterback.
If they don't make the playoffs, they might not make 5 wins.
Well, if they don't make 5 wins, if they don't make 5 wins by midseason, you might see a change by then.
Okay, so the seat is hot for head coach Mike McDaniel. We will leave it at that. You know, the seat has been hot, it feels like, for Brian Daboll and the Giants, and I feel like they put.
What's up, Vikings Nation? Victor here. And buckle up, because this one is spicy. We're talking about Tyreek Hill potentially being on the trade block. And yes, the Minnesota Vikings are being mentioned as a team that could get involved. Imagine Tyreek Hill in purple, lining up with Justin Jefferson. That's not just fun to think about. That's downright terrifying for every defense in the NFL. The Tyreek Hill situation. So here's the deal. Miami just got embarrassed by the Colts in week 1, and if that's a sign of things to come, the Dolphins' season could spiral fast. Tyreek Hill is under contract through 2026, but here's the catch. Next year, he's due to make $36 million with a cap hit of $51.8 million. There's almost no way the Dolphins keep him long-term at that number, which means if Miami starts sinking, Hill becomes an asset they can flip for picks, just like what happened with Davante Adams last year. Teams already in the mix right now. National insiders are saying Kansas City could try to bring him back, and the Steelers might get aggressive too, especially after their hot start. But here's the thing nobody's really talking about. Why not the Vikings? Why the Vikings make sense? Let's be real. The Vikings wide receiver situation is complicated. Justin Jefferson is the best receiver in football, no doubt. But Jordan Addison is suspended for the first 3 games. Adam Thielen just came back as a steady veteran. Rondale Moore is out for the year. And Jalen Naylor hasn't shown he can stay healthy. So what do you do when you've got a rookie quarterback in J.J. McCarthy trying to develop? You surround him with weapons. And Tyreek Hill, the fastest receiver in the NFL, a 7-time Pro Bowler, 4-time All-Pro, would instantly give Minnesota the deadliest WR duo in the league. We're talking about Jefferson and Hill on the same field. How do you even defend that? Double Jefferson? Tyreek burns you deep. Focus on Hill? Jefferson eats you alive underneath. Add Hawkinson in the mix? Man, defenses wouldn't know what hit them. The fit in Kevin O'Connell's system. Kevin O'Connell's offense is all about spacing, timing, and creating mismatches. Tyreek Hill has thrived in those exact concepts his whole career. Short crossers, quick outs, play action deep shots. And even at 30, the guy hasn't lost a step. Stat check. In 2023, Tyreek had 1,799 yards and 13 touchdowns. Last year, even battling injuries, he was still over 2,100 yards and 7 TDs. That's elite production, year after year. The big question, price tag now. Here's where it gets tricky. Davante Adams was traded for a 3rd-round pick last year. If Tyreek Hill could be had for something similar, maybe a 2nd or 3rd rounder, that's a move Kwesi Adofo-Mensah has to seriously consider. Yes, the contract is massive, and yes, it's a gamble. But when's the last time the Vikings had a window this wide open to go all in? Pair Hill with Jefferson, and you're not just talking about making the playoffs. You're talking about Super Bowl contention. I'll be honest, Vikings Nation, this is the type of move that separates good teams from great ones. Do I think it's realistic? Maybe. Do I think the Vikings should be all over it? Absolutely. J.J. McCarthy would have no excuses with that arsenal, and we'd finally have the firepower to go toe-to-toe with teams like San Francisco, Philly, and yes, even Kansas City. But what do you think? Would you trade for Tyreek Hill if it costs us a high draft pick? Or is that too risky with his contract and age? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button, and subscribe to Report Vikings. Because if Tyreek Hill actually puts on purple and gold, you better believe we'll be the first to break it down. Skol Vikings!